Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Oakland Midsummer service. Today, we're going to be celebrating sacred fruits and food justice and the celebration of Midsummer, which is the celebration of the summer solstice and the longest day. First, however, I'm going to give an acknowledgement for the land and for the colonized land that we live on. In 1492, a man whose name I will not say sailed the ocean blue. He found a land peopled and filled with vibrant culture. He and his enslaved these people, raped and brutalized them, and drove the peoples of the islands he found to extinction. When he had done so, he had slaves brought from Africa to take their place, to labor for his greed. Other odious men followed and took the mold that this man had created and spread it across the entirety of the so-called New World, until not a single people of this vibrant land remained untouched. This is what I mean when I say we live on colonized land. This is what I mean when I say white supremacy. It is right and proper for us to recognize this fact before we begin any ritual or magical working to treat the sickness of our own hearts. The people of this land are still here. The peoples brought to this land as slaves are still here. And they are disproportionately affected by issues of food justice and the current COVID crisis. Before we begin, I invite us all to unmute and say 3 times, Black Lives Matter and Native Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Native Lives
Native Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Native lives
Native Lives
matter.
Matter.
Black Lives Matter. My lives matter.
So mote it be. And now Tara Miller will light the sacred fires of our tradition.
If you do not wish
Sorry, you're muted.
Tara, your sound went out.
European descent in a biracial family,
Tara, could you start from the beginning? Your sound went out.
yes, I will
We
start
need
from the
everyone
you.
to mute. Everyone mute, please.
If you do not want to be recorded, please turn off your camera at this time. I am Tara Miller, your worship associate and Circle of Oak member. I identify as a white lesbian of mixed European descent in a biracial family. I go by she, her pronoun. It is our tradition to mark our gathering with a lighting of the chalice. This morning, the words of Alice Walker call us into worship. Alice Walker is an iconic African-American writer and poet who has written on personal and political experiences in the African-American, Jewish, and Palestinian worlds. And she's written of their inherent complexities of racism. These words are from absolute trust in the goodness of the earth. Despite the hunger, we cannot possess more than this: peace in a garden of our own. we also light a red candle to honor Black and brown lives harmed by white supremacy. I offer these words inspired by poet Abel Meeropol and vocalist Billie Holiday. No more trees shall bear strange fruit, no more blood on leaves, no more blood at root, no more Black bodies shot down by police, no more terror from authorities. Black lives matter from north to south, calling, shouting from Black, brown, white folks' mouth. Harvest of fruit, sweet and fresh, dismantling supremacy of white flesh. Ashe. Come, let us worship together. Piper will now cast our circle.
All space is sacred. But at the beginning of many ritual gatherings, we take a moment to recognize that this space where we are gathered is sacred. Today we're gathered in spaces across the county, probably across many counties. And all of these are sacred. We recognize this, the way that circles move within circles, with a song. We are a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending. Let all of these sacred spaces we inhabit be known, be such, be held within the embrace of the community gathered here today. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Now Catherine will invite the elements to join us within this circle.
We welcome the elements to our service this morning. Welcome air, guiding spirit of thought and intellectual inquiry. Welcome fire, fueling our passion, calling us to action and activism. Welcome water, nourishing our hearts and emotions. Welcome earth, keeping us grounded and nourishing our bodies. Welcome center, spirit of community, uniting us in the service of justice and systemic change. We welcome the elements to our midsummer gathering. Hail and welcome, blessed be. And now we welcome Corliss with the Crone Report.
Hello, I'm Corliss Smith. I'm going to share with you an arresting communication I received from a person who called herself a crone. It started abruptly like this. The American Heritage Dictionary says a crone is a withered, witch-like old woman. Now, this isn't what I mean by crone at all and doesn't apply to me. I could be described as withered, though it's not a term I would choose, and I'm pretty darn sure I'm not a witch. There are people who are, but I'm not one, and I think I would know. For me, being a crone means weathered more than withered. Crondom is actually a wealth management strategy deeply invested in happiness and the natural world, which includes people, of course. It's a hard time right now, but there is some cause to be happy. It's summer in our biome. The first round of raspberries has passed, but the strawberries are sweetening, zucchinis and green beans are swelling, the secret underground world of carrots, beets, and potatoes are fattening into nutritious miracles. Greens surround us with their leafy beauty and healthy address to our insides. I'm no longer in the summer of my life. It's warm, but winter is coming. The cycle of the garden offers me an excellent model for understanding, accepting, and enjoying this phase. In spring, I planted the seeds in the earth, as in my youth, I both planted seeds and had seeds planted in me. I didn't think much or care about my crone years, even though just a little reflection would have told me that if I lived long enough, I would be old, inhabiting a very different phase of life, and that it would be good to contemplate that fact and prepare. But I was surviving day to day. Then, in the long summer of my life, as I ripened and expanded, accumulated an array of scars and etchings, I began to prepare in my body, in my economic life, and in my relationships. The plums had blossomed, and the fruit changed from green to lavender to deep purple. I observed birds and squirrels. I saved fruits for the winter, gathering knowledge and life supplies. I found out what interests me and am doing and being those things. I squandered a lot, I must confess, but nature is a squanderer too. I observe her prolific redundancy. For example, the many watermelon seeds that won't sprout and grow into new watermelons compared to the infinitesimal number that will. Or observe the zinnia, whose every petal, which, if left to weather, becomes a new seed, but only if it's left to dry out. Fall always arrives and the plants start to wither, and so have I. I've been surprised and dismayed by this withering, but I've also found great wonder, beauty, and contentment in it. I look at others who have also earned their wrinkles and know that each mark represents experience in the world and an indication of miles traveled, days in the sun, wind and rain, mates, children and friends, expression, smiles and scowls. I'll end my disquisition on crondom with this story. It's a fact that some plants yield their fruits only when they're dried up, like potatoes and beans. In fact, you have to let the seed pods get brown and brittle before you can get the beans out, before they're ready. And so it is with being a crone. I'm not a green plant anymore. I've flowered many times. Now I'm a repository, a root cellar, and a pantry. In the spring of life you sow, in the fall you reap, in the winter you eat and rest. This is the ecology of human life, and I celebrate its cavalcade of seasons. Hooray summer and plastic-free July. That's what the crone wrote. And now, for an invitation to gather fruit.
As we are gathered here now to celebrate Midsummer, which is that season of first fruits, We recognize this is the time when annual and perennial plants, many of them ripen those first delicate, delicious fruits. In many times and places in the world, those first fruits have been cherished as sacred. And we'll work with those ideas today. If you have the good fortune to be able to access a piece of fruit this morning, and if fruit pleases and nourishes your body, then you might choose a literal piece of fruit. If not, a nut would be fine as well, or otherwise whatever food sustains and delights you. We'll use the word fruit throughout the service to refer to whatever sustenance you chose for today. So during the music that follows, please gather your chosen sacred fruit and put it so that it's near at hand, so you can see it during the service. And don't eat it yet. Remember during the hymn that's about to play to stay on mute, especially if you want to sing along with it. All right, go.
In a moment, I will chime a bell to signal us to briefly unmute and speak the names of people we want to hold in our care. When I chime the bell a second time, you are invited to mute once more and say with me, "We hold you in our care." Let us speak the names of those who celebrate dreams coming to fruit, anticipate a harvest, or are in mourning for dreams and loved ones returning to the earth, and embracing meditation.
Loki Hodder.
Mike Buckley, who's died, and Penny Buckley, who is ill.
Lindy Angelo, who's very sick.
Betty Bloomer.
Sarah Rose.
David Todd.
Christina Pestano.
Max and Gavin.
Good morning.
Emily Silbert.
My neighbor Lita and my neighbor Gail.
The organizers of our women's retreat yesterday.
Gogie's family.
Rest in peace.
And the presenters at the women's retreat.
Soul Fire's Pride Ride. For the names spoken and those names that stayed in the silent sanctuary of our heart, we hold you in our care. So it is. Zia now offers a reflection.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Zia Swim. I'm she, her. And today I'm here to talk to you about a banana. And also to talk about the very important concepts of food justice. Now, what do these two have to do together? Bananas are extremely tasty, extremely portable. They also come to us from really far away. The Environmental Working Group puts out a list every year of the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. If you're not familiar with this, this is an oblique reference to an old Western, and also a way to designate what fruits do we need to buy organic, because they contain a significant amount of pesticides and other things that would harm us when we eat them, and which ones, the Clean 15, that it doesn't matter if we buy organic. But does it really not matter? Let's return to the banana. The banana's wonderful peel protects the delicious succulent fruit inside of it from many things: bugs, fruit flies, and the fertilizers and fungicides that industrial farming has us spray on these bananas. It protects us. But the definition of food justice that has been circulated widely enough on the internet that I can't find a good attribution, is that food justice is when communities exercise their right to grow, sell, and eat healthy food. And that food is nutritious, affordable, culturally appropriate, and grown with care for the well-being of the land, workers, and animals. In considering food justice from the perspective of this banana, we need to consider the fact that the fungicides used and the fertilizers used in the production of the bananas are actually significantly harmful to the workers, causing cancers and infertilities at an extremely high rate, especially in for almost all bananas, save for those grown in Hawaii, that don't benefit from the protections of our FDA. So when we speak of food justice, which our further presenters here today will elaborate on in much more detail, we are inviting you to consider how your food, how the decisions that you make, affects the others, all the hands who touch the food, to bring it to you. In this way, we can hold our food to be sacred and to bring it to ourselves, to nourish our bodies and souls. Thank you.
Thank you for complexifying bananas. I'm going to complexify that sacred fruit that you chose. Look again at your piece of sacred fruit, whether it is literal or figurative fruit. It is sacred. How delicious is it going to be to eat that? How did you get it? Before you got up and got it this morning, how did it arrive in your life? What would it be like if you never had access to foods like these? Here in Alameda County, immense effort has gone into constructing unequal access to food. Our urban landscape has been carefully sculpted over the past century and a half, so that some people, especially rich and white people, have consistent access to good, nutritious food, while some people, especially poor and brown people, can't even get to a grocery store. In my neighborhood in Berkeley, I can walk to 2 farmers markets and a grocery store without particular strain. In many neighborhoods in Oakland, you have to drive 15 or 20 minutes to find any grocery store or any other place to buy good, fresh fruits, if you have a car. A common term for areas like that is food deserts. And they were built on purpose through decades of denying the rights of all people to access nutritious food. Racist policies like redlining, the gentlemen's agreements that kept brown people out of housing developments, and placing new freeways deliberately to destroy neighborhoods full of poor immigrant and brown people have made Oakland into a city where, for many, without a car, the corner liquor store may be the only place you can buy food. If this were the shape of your life, would you still be about to eat that piece of food? The health impacts of eating these processed sugary foods from the liquor store are devastating, further sapping the community's energy for action. And yet they do act. The struggle for food justice in these marginalized communities is the work of many brilliant community organizers' entire lives. I'm not talking about all of this to make you feel guilty about your piece of sacred fruit. It is good that you have access to it. But here in this space, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. In this space, we affirm the interconnected web of life of which we are a part. Here, we build a tapestry of community that will not be afraid to see injustice, learn, and act. And so, we look at how this food represents our privilege and plan how we can take action. The food we eat literally gives us the energy to act in the world. And the world, this country, this county, needs greater food justice. So I invite you right now to choose that you will use some part of the energy your sacred food will give you to take action to take action so that others can experience more food justice. You might educate yourself on the topic. I have a few book recommendations if people are interested. You might donate to community food banks that are desperately trying to address the food inequalities made so much worse by coronavirus, by COVID-19. There are any number of actions to take, and you don't have to know right now what you'll do. Making an intention to act is a good place to start. Two beloved former ministers of mine, Barbara and Bill Hamilton, used these words before each of our church suppers to remind us how we could use the energy given by the abundant food we enjoy. Good food for good works. May it be so. As we listen to the New York City Virtual Choir and Orchestra's rendition of hymn number 108, I invite you to let in deeply its message of hope and resistance. May it inspire the justice work ahead of you.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost calm, love to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from
First I learned to love it. No storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
Piper, you're muted.
At this time, I'd like to invite Anita to give the reading of a meditation that was created by Leanna Sack, member of this congregation.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm unmuted, I think. Here I am. I'd like to thank Leanna for writing these beautiful words, and I'm going to read them. I have my apple in my hand. If you don't have an apple, any other thing, a cracker, a piece of bread, I think even a cup of tea might work. Are you ready? It's almost time to eat. I invite you to take the fruit or some other food or a cup of tea that you chose earlier and put it right in front of you. First, hold the fruit or have it close to you. Feel the joy and warmth of the earth bursting with abundance and kindness to feed your body and your spirit, all part of one whole. Every molecule in your body, every molecule in your piece of fruit is ancient, wise, magical, and sacred. With the mutual respect for yourself and your food, two inextricably linked sacred pieces of our living earth, bestow a blessing on your fruit. I'll give you a moment to breathe, whisper, sing, or smile a blessing onto your fruit. As you prepare to humbly accept it into your own body, thereby becoming one with the memory and spirit of your fruit. Savor the anticipation of eating. Imagine the taste. Now gaze at your piece of fruit, noticing the curvatures and the contours, a culmination of millions of years of cooperation. The fruit has nourished us. We, crawling, walking, flying, and eating creatures, providing us with strength and energy. In turn, we scatter the seeds and cultivate it, fostering its growth and procreation. Each sustains the other. Each would perish without the other. The fruit becomes part of us when we eat it, and we become part of it after our bodies rejoin the earth. It is a beautiful and perfect cycle of life nurturing life. Then consider the journey that your fruit has made to get to you. Perhaps plucked from your garden, still dewy in the first light of morning, or more likely picked in a large field by someone with rough sun-kissed hands who picked thousands of pieces of fruit that day, then packed them in a box, maybe in a hurry to finish filling that box and pack up another one, then driven to the next location it goes to by someone else. Eventually it made its way to a store or a farmer's market, and money was exchanged for it. Remember the many people who cared for your fruit along the way, and they maybe were not fairly compensated and risked their health in exchange for long-term survival of themselves and their family, not out of selfishness, but out of need. Now consider your own good fortune if you have access to fresh produce, when there are sacred and deserving bodies nearby yearning for fruit, with nothing but sugar-flavored water available to quell that craving. Some of those yearning for fruit today are the same people who pick it, pack it, transport it, or sell it. And they may not, and the fruit reminds us that we are all connected, that lines divide us one from another. They're tenuous, temporary, and easily transcended, these lines, reminding us of our obligations to nurture the earth and all its children. And doing so, we nurture ourselves. We must celebrate our abundance while never turning our backs on those who have been cut off from it, never accepting hunger, or waste as part of life. The threats of illness and violence are real, but the earth has revealed her intention to preserve and heal by blessing us once more with the first fruits of summer. Our sacred duty is to make sure that blessing reaches all for whom it is intended. With all due appreciation and gratitude, pick up your sacred piece of fruit and eat. And while we eat, let's savor a moment of silence together. Share my apple.
Okay. Oh, you ate my raisin.
You can be in the picture with me here. Thank you. I'm done. And now I'd like to introduce our next segment, but I don't remember what it is. Offering from Corliss.
Corliss, here again to convey some facts about how to make donations. We want to do this. We want to make donations because of how we value the church and belonging to a group of such kind, humorous, intelligent, talented people who try to live Unitarian principles in daily life. I have to support this. I just have to. And all of us really need to chip in a bit more now because the church is closed to rental customers who provided a big part of our income. It's actually very easy to contribute from your home. You can go to the First Unitarian Church of Oakland website where you'll find transparent instructions. You can also use the Give Plus app. And an important note here is a request from the church leadership. If you are giving a donation every week, it would be so appreciated if you were able to pledge that amount because it would allow the church to do better planning. This may not be possible for many people, but if it is possible for you, make a pledge or even up your pledge. Or, and this is important, if you can't pay the pledge you already made, let us know. We are sympathetic. Now, please join us in our closing hymn.
Has come, arise and greet the day.
We now bid farewell to the elements and thank them for their guidance and presence this morning. Farewell, Center. May we keep the spirit of this beloved community with us throughout the week until we gather here again. Farewell, Earth. May we remain grounded and nourished. Farewell, water. May we tend to our hearts and honor the emotions of ourselves and others. Farewell, fire. May we keep our passion for action and change burning bright. Farewell, air. May we keep our minds clear and focused. Hail and farewell, elements. Blessed be. And now Piper will close the circle.
Before releasing the circle, I want to take a moment to recognize that I may owe someone here an apology. When I spoke about food justice a few minutes ago, I didn't recognize the fact that some of the people here may be the ones who are suffering from our unjust food systems. If you're hungry today, or you're feeling the lack of joyous and nutritious food, please know that you are also held here, that you are so beloved. And may this ritual, this service, and the service in the wider community that arises from it hold you and yours. And now we release this circle in the way that in a few months, those zinnias may release their petals, not to molder in the earth, but as seeds of change and action. The circle is open, but unbroken. May the love, the spirit of life go ever in your hearts. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Blessed be.
As we extinguish our flames, allow the flame of food justice remain in our hearts, minds, and actions this week and the weeks to come. Go in peace.
Go in peace.